beautiful boss slaymates. It's me, Ikenisha, your favorite business consultant, and today is going to be a little bit different of a video. Um, I wanted to do this video because, well, two things. So one, if you've been following me for a long time, then you know that I started going through a lot of stuff, especially around 2019, yeah, around the time I got pregnant. So 2019 up until a few years ago or a year ago, whatever. Anywho, so you all would know that I was going through a whole spiritual journey, depression, and all of that sort of stuff. So I really want to talk about it because I never really talked about it on my channel, not really at all, really. And you all know I'm very open and transparent, especially on my channel. And also, if you've been following me on Instagram for a long time, you know I always post motivational videos as well, or videos that I really like, in terms of motivating you, whether it's for business or motivating your mind. And I posted like 3 or 4 back to back to back. Well, not like back to back, but like just on Mondays. And they've gotten like some really good traction. So I was like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and let that be the topic of my next YouTube video. So this video is basically about my spiritual journey and my bout with depression, how it affected my business, how it affected my life, everything else that I've been going through, and how I have become a better person. So I'm kind of go through like the steps as they happened. So I haven't planned this video at all. So just bear with me because I'm just literally just going to talk, and hopefully this may help someone, but I kind of just want to get it out, you know. All right, so I suffered with depression literally all my life. I had a video up all about where my depression came from. It came from SA. You all should know what SA stands for. I dealt with it numerous times throughout my life, and the one that affected me the most was the time that it happened in college. So I've always dealt with depression. I dealt with a few suicide attempts as well. So I've always dealt with it. But in 2019, it got worse. I think because I was pregnant. Granted, you all know I've been pregnant before, obviously, because I have 2 kids. But this particular pregnancy was even worse, not only because of my health. I was in and out of the hospital with kidney issues because of my pregnancy, and then my marriage was starting to fall apart, which also made it worse because I didn't really have the support that I needed throughout that particular pregnancy. And so after my son was born, that was when COVID hit. So he was born a month early. He was supposed to have been born in March. He was born in February of 2020. And you all know the shutdown and everything happened like March. Was it March or April 2020? Something like that. So, sorry. So, during that time, a lot of people who have small businesses online, a lot of people were saying, okay, I'll put it this way. A lot of people who were like big business, their businesses were suffering. Whereas a lot of us that were small business owners, our business like just skyrocketed. Like a lot of people. I have one friend that made like $40,000 in 2 months. Like I was starting to get that way as well. Like my business was already picking up. I'm talking about both sides. So the boutique part was picking up really well. And then the consulting side, which is what you all know that I do, that was like, I mean, shooting through the roof. So e-commerce was a big thing, obviously, during the pandemic because people were shopping at home. So I had a lot of clients where I was also creating their websites. So that was picking up too. So I was starting to get extremely busy. Like, we talking busy. So dealing with that and having a newborn and having my child in the house during the pandemic, and having to do virtual homeschool, virtual school, whatever you want to call it, and then not really having that support even in the home, that made it worse. And So what ended up happening was I ended 2020 with a great year financially. Really, really great year financially. So I was trying to use that as my motivation, to kind of bounce out of the depression. But in November of 2020, I just couldn't. And if you have been following me since that time, then you kind of notice a little bit of a difference in my YouTube videos. Some people told me that they noticed my affect in the videos, but the depression and how I handled it, and what I was going through, and the fact that I had 2 kids at that time, I started to realize that I needed to do something to make me a happier person, a happy mother, and better mentally. And so I moved out, moved in with my mom in 2021, stayed there. And during that time, well, right before I moved, I started randomly got into tarot. I had always been interested in it, but being raised in a strict Christian home, that's always been something that I stayed away from, even though I was interested in. I've always been a person that's interested in other religions, other cultures. I love to immerse myself in different things like that, because everyone, there's different experiences in the world, and I want to know more about it. So when I was in college, I actually attended. It was one class that I was in, and we were actually allowed to go to like mosques, and where Catholics go to temple. I was able to do all those sort of things and kind of explore other religions. So I've always been interested in different things. But with tarot, if you were raised in a Christian household, no matter your race, you know that that's known as witchcraft. And even though I've always also been really into horoscopes and zodiac signs and stuff, I never went into too far into that. But I was on YouTube as always, and I don't know how. I know y'all know how you say something out loud, or you think something, all of a sudden it just pops up either on your YouTube or your Facebook or something, or an ad. And I actually was talking about tarot out loud. And I'm gonna pause real quick. Okay, so yeah, back to what I was saying. I had said something, I can't remember if I said it out loud or if I was thinking about it. Either way, that tarot type thing had popped in my mind. And a video randomly popped up on my YouTube, and I watched it. And so it kind of, when you click on one video on YouTube, it just suddenly just suggests everything about that subject to you. So I got really into it. Like, we talking into it. Like, I had readings. I had someone that I talked to every month, and I was really into that, and got into manifestation and learning about more ways to clear your mind and your subconscious mind, and how to calm yourself and how to be positive, because I've always been a very positive but realistic person, and that's something a lot of people have said they liked about me, is how positive I am and how I'm able to make people feel better and a good listener, all that sort of stuff. But I was never really that to myself. So getting into that, I also learned about what was it called? It's journaling, but it was, I forgot what the term for it now. But with the journaling, you write as if you are living the life you already want to live, and it's supposed to program your mind to go forward into trying to create that life. And being that I was in such a state in my life that I just did not want to be in, it provided a great escape, and I really liked it. And granted, I'm not, exactly where I want to be in terms of that life, but mentally I am. So I was into that. Like, every night I would journal, and it would be as if I was living the life that I dreamed about, whether it was the person I wanted to be with, what I wanted to do for my kids, and where I wanted to live, and how I wanted my businesses to be. Like, I wrote as if I was her, and as if I was living in that house, and the things that I described around me is what I saw in my mind of how I wanted to live. And the more I did that, the more readings I did, and doing the monthly ones, and getting into y'all, I really got into everything. I got into the whole moon thing. Like, it was a lot. And I did that for, what year are we in? We're in 2024. So I did that from 2020. Well, it was like the beginning of 2021, I want to say, when I got into that. Yeah. So 2021 up until last year. Yeah. Up until last year. I want to say spring of last year. So about 2 years. I literally journaled every day. I was already someone who wrote anyway. I've always been a journaler. That was something that my therapist slash school counselor got me into doing when I was little, because I had to see the school counselor every day when I was in elementary school for reasons that I was just saying, among other things. So I've always done that. My husband got me out of it because of certain things that he would do whenever I would write. And so I stopped for a while because writing became too painful, even though that used to be my escape. So getting back into it, even though it wasn't like my current life and it was me writing about my future life, it was still, it got me back into my love of writing. So doing that for those few years, it really did change my mind. Now, I want to put this out there that just because I was doing like tarot and things of that nature, like I even got my own cards. Like I had this big book, I mean, not book, big boxes probably about that big, that tall, full of tarot cards, crystals, sage, books. We talking, I mean, all of it. So I'm telling y'all, I have that type of personality where when I get into something, I really get into it. Like I get, like, it's like an obsessive personality or something. My therapist has said before. So like if I have an idea, I'm going to be all in on the idea, and that's all thing I'm focused on for a certain amount of time. So yeah, it is a part of OCD, and that is what I have. So yeah, I was really into it, and it really did help me calm down. It helped me calm my mind. It helped me calm my anxiety. It helped me um, really put things in perspective. It helped me look at the bright side of things. It helped me look forward to the future. I still now, one thing, what I was trying to say before that I preface was that even though I was doing that, it wasn't like I was worshiping a being or worshiping the universe. God is still my Lord and Savior. That is it. That's the only thing, well, only higher being that I look at as my higher being, as my spiritual father. That is God, hands down, nothing else. So I didn't use that as a replacement for God. I still prayed every night. I still prayed every morning. I still did my scriptures, my Bible readings, writing down in my gratitude journal. I had a whole night routine and morning routine starting in that 2020, and I still have a night and morning routine to this day. And that routine consists of my scripture reading. I write down what those scriptures taught me, what I learned from those scriptures. I write down how I felt for the day. I write down what I'm grateful for, and I write down a prayer and I pray. So that's something I've done every night for the past 4 years. And then I would work in that whole thing with the tarot if I wanted to, or planning things around the moon phases of how I would act and my goal setting. It was just a lot. So what ended up happening, why I stopped with the tarot and all of that, is, again, things happen randomly. I don't know how I happened upon him randomly on YouTube. Pastor Mike Todd popped up on my YouTube feed, and I had heard of him, but I never heard him speak. I didn't even really know he was a pastor when I heard of him. I had just heard of his book, Relationship Goals, and I never read it. I had seen it at my stepmom's house, at my dad's house, I think. I can't remember whose house I saw it at way back, but I never really paid him any mind. And so for him to randomly pop up on my YouTube feed, not sure how, but he popped up there, but it wasn't on his church's channel. It was through someone else posted a sermon of his, or a snippet of a sermon. And I just clicked on it because I was like, he's really young, black guy. Let me click on it and see, what he's talking about. So I clicked on it and I listened, and I just loved the way he spoke. Now, I will preface this too, because I do not like when people do this. I have seen and heard so much controversial things around Pastor Mike Todd. And I'm going to say that if you do not like him, or you think I should not listen to him, or anything negative of that nature, you can click off now, because I truly do not care what you think or what anyone else thinks about me listening to Pastor Mike Todd. I had a few people in my life saying, "Oh, he's this, and he's someone you shouldn't be listening to, and he's done this, he does things for attention, blah blah blah." But what I've also noticed is that a lot of churches who are smaller than him in different communities, they don't help out their communities the way he does. They don't do certain things that I have seen him do or heard him say. And I really respect the fact that he is my age and he's doing all the things that he's done. And we have to remember as people that pastors are still people. They're going to make mistakes. They're not perfect. They're not God. They're not Jesus. They're not Jesus's brother. So they were made by... No. So the few things that he has done that causes controversy is irrelevant, because he has still done things that your local pastor most likely has not done. And so I don't want to hear it. I really don't. So if you're going to drop down in the comments and say something, I'm going to either block you from my channel, or I might read you and then block you from my channel. So go ahead and say that. So if you don't like him, cool, whatever. This isn't a defend Mike Todd thing or whatever, but I'm just going to preface that as the saying things, because what I'm going to be saying next is about him in a positive way. So anywho, after I listened to that snippet of a sermon, I wanted to find out more about him. So I looked him up and found that he had a church and his channel and all of that. So, of course, the obsessive personality that I have, I started listening to his sermons. And when I was listening to like 2 a day, and if you were familiar with him, you know his sermons, especially his older ones, they would run about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it didn't bother me at all. And what ended up happening was, in the second sermon of his that I listened to, he said something about his timing in how long his sermons were. And it was something to the effect of, you can sit and binge an entire season of a show on Netflix, but you have a problem listening to God's word for an hour and a half. I said, oh, yes, you're talking to me. Because at one point I was thinking in my head like, all right, it's going on too long. And then when he said it, I was like, oh, he's right, because I have sat and watched the entire Bridgerton series when it first came out, and it was 8 episodes long. They're all like an hour and some change, and so that I sat there for a whole shift at work, you know what I'm saying, watching Bridgerton. So I'm like, yeah, I do sit and watch Marvel movies, and they're like 2-3 hours, and I have no problem with it. So I should have no problem listening to God's word for an hour and a half. And so he preaches in series. So again, my obsessive personality, I went through so many of his series, and it was one particular one, I'm not going to go into it or anything, but it was a few things that he said around prayer and how you should pray, that it instantly changed my life. And it changed how I pray. It changed how I argue. It changed how I look at my mom. It changed how I speak to her. It changed how I looked at my dad. It changed how I looked at myself. That one entire sermon, and throughout that series, I just knew that he was who I needed to listen to and have in that moment in time. And I had been going through something, because I remember now I was staying with my mom. Well, hold on, scratch. When I moved out in 2021, I moved back in 2022. Then I moved back out in 2023. So I discovered Mike Todd in 2023. Okay. So during the second time that I'm living with my mom, which is now, I was having issues with her, but it was things, I'm not going to go into detail, but with the tarot and all that, I also got into affirmations and meditating and that sort of thing. And there's this channel, and I'm almost positive I talked about it on one of my other videos. It was called like, I can't remember, but I'm going to put the video link down in the description box. But there was one thing in this one particular video that I watched where the woman said, I can't control what others say or think, but I can control how I respond to them. And that was something that I continued to think about anytime something happened with my mom. Like, I can't control her, but I can control how I respond to her and make sure I respond in a respectful way, or not be loud or not be disrespectful, that sort of thing. And then the other thing that I kept telling myself, this was something, I can't remember where I saw it, but this is something that I would continue to say, not just in the issues that I was having with her, but just in general. I would continue to say in my head whenever something happened is, this problem is not as big as I'm making it seem. And then, shockingly, just saying that and then taking a breath, I would be fine, because I would realize, okay, this is not that serious. It's really not. And so I would chill out. But okay, so back to Pastor Todd, whatever we're going to say. So once I got into him and got into my obsessive nature and getting really immersed into what he was preaching and seeing how he was able to change a lot in my thinking, I fully stopped tarot. I fully stopped all of that stuff. I still do things with horoscopes because I fully believe in horoscopes. I'm sorry. I do, and I'm not going to go into why I think some of that stuff is in the Bible. I would tell you where it is, but I just don't even feel like talking about all that. Just knowing that I still do that. I don't do tarot or anything like that anymore. So that was another part of my spiritual journey. So first we started off with the depression and isolation. Pause for a second. So the steps so far in my spiritual journey, and I just realized that I skipped out on something very important that I started doing along with the tarot. Well, it started around that time. But anywho, so we had the depression, which of course put me into isolation. So I wasn't really around anyone or anything. I was just into what I was into and trying to get better. So we had the depression, we had the isolation, we had the tarot and the whole spiritual thing. And I was still doing my gratitude journaling, being grateful, my devotionals, which is also, still spending that time with God, discovering Mike Todd. And then also something that really helped me, goes into the whole journaling thing, was I did, and I am still doing, but I haven't been doing it as much, but it is a continuous thing, is shadow work. I did a lot of shadow work. I discovered shadow work throughout my time of researching tarot. And even though it sounds like it's something mystic or from the occult, it's not. Shadow work basically means you're doing work on your inner self, or your shadow, which is your, don't want to say bad side, but it's your other side. And you're basically figuring out why you are the way you are. And the way that this works is, I actually left my book in the house, but I have a ton of questions or prompts, and each one is designed to make you think. So you have certain prompts that would be about, for example, one question in there, I actually went and got my book. So one question in there would be, I did this one on March 9th of 2022. Wait, let me see. Yeah, this was from 2022. This might be 2021. I should have wrote down the year. Oh my God. Anywho, the question is, what behaviors in other people upset me the most and why? So this is trying to get to the root of why. I'm gonna close this door. Helping me get to the root of the issue of why I feel a certain way. And one thing that really gets me is disrespect. If I feel disrespected on any sort of level, it brings out a side of me that I rarely show. But when you see it, don't F with me. You know what I'm saying? It's just it. So I'll read a little bit of what I wrote. I said, I do not like it when people disrespect me in any kind of way, such as lying to me, raising their voice, getting in my personal space, interrupting me when I'm speaking, and insulting me. Most of this stems from the sexual trauma and feeling like I was disrespected during that time. When I feel disrespected, I feel like I'm not being valued or appreciated. I also have a big problem with people, particularly partners, going a while without talking to me, ignoring me, or abruptly ending a conversation without letting me know it has ended. I know this stems from me having abandonment issues, which actually got worse after my grandmother passed. After she passed, I started feeling like no one put me first, cared about me, or wanted me around. And I'm going to skip this line because it's totally personal. I have never mentioned it in its entirety. I felt like I didn't come first when it came to other things. In some aspects, blah, 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 and just a lack of feeling heard or seen. In my relationships, I only want to be with that person. I rarely want to be around friends. It is hard being away from my significant other because of this feeling that they will want to be around others more than me. Being married to someone who actually did make me feel this way and say it to me on numerous occasions to my face made it worse. I am scared now of not being good enough, saying the wrong thing, feeling insecure about my personality. I always had to be in defense mode growing up due to the repetitive criticism, and it still occurs now. So combining that with fear of saying the wrong thing is horrible. I want to release those feelings. I am good enough. I am funny. I am fun to be around. I am secure in who I am, and I am wanted for more than just sex. So that really, when you start to write and think about what you're writing, you really start to figure out why you are the way you are. And so the point of shadow work is for you to figure out why you have certain behaviors in your life, look at why you have them, work that out, and then work to change it and work to be better. And I have so many prompts, so much in here, y'all. Like, I have a lot that I wrote down, and it really, really helped me. And I still do it now. I still write. I still, of course, I'm writing about my current life now. I stopped with the future writing, but that future writing, I swear to y'all, it really did help me. I have an entire book that's about that thick of just the future journaling. And it just being that what it did to my mind, y'all, is being that I was starting to feel like that woman. It made me make decisions and, well, think twice about certain decisions that I was going to make or making, because I'm like, my mind would just randomly say, or my subconscious would say, hey, future Nisha wouldn't do this. Boss Nisha wouldn't do this. The Nisha that's running this multi-million-dollar business wouldn't make that decision. She would be working. She would be figuring this out. She wouldn't be staying in bed till 11 o'clock in the morning. She would be up working. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really switched something in me and made me make better decisions, whether it was for business or for my kids. And I said all this to say that different things, I feel like, have certain purposes for certain times. You know how they say there's a season for everybody. Everybody's in your life for a certain reason or a certain season and that sort of stuff. I feel like it's the same thing with other aspects of life. So I feel like I really needed that slight obsessive moment in time with tarot to get me back to my positivity and back to my happy-go-lucky self. And then I ended up discovering on that journey Pastor Mike Todd, which got me back into, not even back into, and he just made me a better person when it came to my relationship with God. And now that tarot part is no longer a part of my life, fine, whatever. But I moved onto something that I needed. So that isolation part, I needed that. Sorry, somebody was coming up in this loud truck. But the isolation part, again, I needed that. Because I needed that time for me, to concentrate on me. I needed to regroup, refresh, you know. And now, even though like I said before, I don't have that huge house that I have a house that I really, really want. I might put the link in the description box just so y'all can see. But there's this house that I really, really want. And that was the house I imagined myself and my kids in during my future writing. We actually went to go see it. We went to see the model home, and I took pictures in it. There's a video of it, all of that, just so I could have it in my mind as I would write. And even though I'm not living in that house, obviously, I still feel better, and I feel like that future self that I wrote about. I make way better decisions. I don't feel like I'm walking in a fog anymore. I am happy. I am fine with certain things. I worked on myself, and in doing so, I didn't worry much about my marriage anymore because I just put it in God's hands. It was, if this is for me, if you want me to stay with him, show me this. If you don't want me to stay with him, show me this. And there were certain things that God showed me, and I just listened and I obeyed. And as I said in another video previously, we aren't living together, but we are doing so much better. And he has done and said things that he has never done or said before, and it really makes me happy. However, God has not told me to move back in yet, and so that has not happened. And again, I'm fine with that. There was a part in I can't remember where I read it. I want to say it was one of my devotional books that I have, or it might have been a scripture. No, it wasn't a scripture. I feel like it was. Anywho, I read somewhere that the point, basically, is to feel content with life. And when you can feel content, you also feel at peace. And that's what I feel. I feel content. I feel at peace. My headspace is in a great space. And I love where I am. And again, I may not be in my own big house, but the love that I feel from my kids, the love that I feel for myself, it just it makes it all, I won't say worth it, but worth it, because I had to go through a lot of things in order to get to where I am. And if you know my original story of how I started my business, which you should, because that's the very first video you can watch on my channel, I've hit rock bottom before. But that was with more so money. And this time, I've hit rock bottom several times in terms of life, but this time I had to have my 2 kids too, and I had to keep going for them. But I also had to keep going for me, because if I didn't keep going for me, then I wouldn't be here for them. And I just want anyone watching this to know that it's okay if it takes you a long time. You don't have to go through things and immediately feel better. I started going through this stuff in 2019. It's 2024. Took me 4 years just to feel okay, which was in 2023. And in a few months, now I feel content. I feel at peace. And like I said, there are a lot of things that have changed in my life, but I feel happy about my life. I am closing my boutique, which I've already talked about a little bit. But the reason I'm closing that is because I think the time is up. The time is up for it. It served the purpose it needed to serve, and it no longer serves me anymore. It's been 7 years, and it was there for a certain purpose, and that purpose has been fulfilled. And I've met so many people, and I have decided that if I do decide to come back and do it, then I would just sell on Walmart's website, because that's something that a huge goal that a lot of people are not able to reach, that I can do, I'm able to do. I have a shop on walmart.com. So if you go to walmart.com and you search for Jinx Fashionique, my stuff comes up. But I have to take it down because I'm about to, do a huge liquidation, get rid of that stuff. So, But looking back, I thoroughly enjoyed my boutique journey. And now I'm entering in other things, and I really feel the pull and the push and the need to do more spiritual things on this channel. So this channel, I'm going to be posting a lot, like I've said before, of whatever I want. So one video may not make sense to the next, but I'm going to post whatever I want. So whether it's motivation, whether it is spiritual, whether it is something about, you know, me entering into another part of business, whatever it is I want to post about, whether it's me shopping, like there's something like I made this video, but I just had never posted it, about me shopping in a certain store, because a lot of people don't post about this store, but they post about organizational stuff and doing their pantries and all that other crap. And I want to post a video about where I get my stuff from, because a lot of people don't really post about it. So I might post it, I don't know. But I know this video, again, it's not making a lot of sense, it's not in a lot of order, but like I said, I just wanted to talk. But I am just so happy, y'all. And I really want you all, or anyone who's going through something, again, just take the journey and let it, just go with it. And wherever you end up is where you end up. And don't worry about what other people say, because like I said, people were just talking about me listening to Mike Todd, and you should listen to him. And God used prostitutes, God used killers, God used all types of people to spread his message and become his disciples. It is what it is. We're not all perfect, okay? I'm so sorry we can't be perfect like you. So I hope that anyone who is on any kind of journey, that you are able to take this and just feel better if you aren't where you want to be yet. It's okay. It may take days, it may take weeks, months, years, but shadow work and working on yourself, it's a constant thing. It never stops. And speaking of which, I totally forgot, because y'all know how I am. I have to make stuff. I made a shadow work journal. So there are a lot of prompts in it, and it's a lot dealing with like relationships, personal development, and all of that. I made a whole big thing, and it's very pretty. It's one of the prettiest journals I've created in a while. So please make sure you click the link in the description box and check that out. I really think you all would enjoy that. It's really, again, it's really pretty. It is, again, one of the prettiest journals I've made, and a lot of the prompts and things in it are ones that I actually have in my book that I started writing in. So yeah, I'm sorry this is so long, but I just, again, wanted to get everything out and just talk about where I've been and where I am now. And I hope, again, that even though I didn't go into a lot of detail, that this helps somebody. And next video, we'll just see what it's about. Bye, y'all.